You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, Days of Our Lives fans, it's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and we need to talk about Everett Lynch and what's going on with him. It definitely looks like he was leading a double life, and the accident that he was in is not the cause because it predates the accident. So exactly what is going on with him? Because it looks like there may be an actual medical disorder plaguing him. Let's dive into this head first, but please click subscribe if you haven't already. So we saw this week that Jada Hunter finally laid eyes on her cheating husband, Bobby Stein, lurking around Salem using the name Everett Lynch. Plus, he had been cheating on her in Seattle with her friend Stephanie Johnson, but Jada didn't know who it was back then, and Steph didn't know back then that she was the other woman. And to her credit, Stephanie didn't side with Everett over Jada. She turned around and had her dad, Steve Johnson, black patch private investigator, look into her boyfriend's version of the story. And Steve comes back with hard proof that Everett is Bobby, and no, there's no secret twin going on. So Jada, meanwhile, went by Everett's hotel room at the Salem Inn to throw photos and other proof in his face, but he seemed to me legitimately flummoxed by what she was saying. Like, he was in the dark, and he even let her take his fingerprints to run so that she could see he's not Bobby. But of course, those came back as a match for Robert Stein. So Everett's still denying it all. He insists he has no idea who this Bobby guy is or Jada. And then Stephanie shows up to do some confronting as well. She had her own pieces of evidence, and she's definitely not buying his story. But after Jada left, Everett had some sort of spell. It almost seemed like a mild stroke where he was having difficulty speaking and then he collapsed. So Stephanie's taking Everett over to the hospital, and I'm sure her mom, Kayla Brady, is going to try and get some answers about what's wrong with him. And Jada pointed out during her confrontation with him that he can't blame amnesia from the accident for his two-timing ways and all his lies. Yeah, that's definitely true. So I went looking to see what kind of medical or psychological condition might fit his symptoms. And I found a couple. One of the best matches is dissociative identity disorder. It's called DID. That one has been used on other soap. And in fact, Days head writer Ron Carlivati used a split personality storyline front burner back when he was the head writer at General Hospital. He did it with iconic GH character Luke Spencer. And let's be real, Carlivati loves to repeat plots, so much so they call him Rerun. So they might not label it DID. He was actually pretty clear in an interview about the Luke split personality thing that he didn't write it to be DID. He wrote it as a split personality caused by trauma, which is much the same. Luke was himself, but was also this other guy they called Fluke, who was this evil dark version. So in real life, DID causes a split personality, like with an alter or more than one alter, or some other behavioral issues. It's most often tied to some sort of childhood trauma, like profound abuse, something like that. I expect we're going to find out that there's some really dark facet of Bob Everett's childhood that was awful or traumatic, like molestation, severe and ongoing abuse, seeing somebody you love getting murdered in front of you, something horrible and traumatic like that. In the case on GH, there was a violent, abusive event, and Luke killed his dad and then accidentally killed his mom. And then that trauma settled into his brain and manifested decades later with this dark version of himself. So similarly, Everett might have some horrid childhood trauma in his past, and then it manifested as Everett a few years back. So yeah, he absolutely could have been Bobby at home with Jada and Everett when he was with Stephanie and had not known that there was another side of him. And of course, we also have this medical event that kicked off on Thursday and continues from there with him manifesting troubling symptoms. They almost look like stroke or aneurysm. This event is kind of like the one that Everett suffered a few weeks ago on MLK Day when he was talking with Chad DiMera in the park. You know, he got kind of disoriented, dizzy, just like a spell. He sat down, kind of reoriented. Chad got him some water and a protein bar, and he came out of it. But I know that even this medical episode that happened, that starts on Thursday and continues, isn't going to be too debilitating, because next week Everett, is vocal and talking, and he opens up to Chad and tells him about this cheating creep Bobby that he is being accused of being. And if anybody in Salem will believe him, even if Stephanie and Jada won't, Chad will. Chad's an excellent choice of someone to talk to, because Chad's dead wife, Abigail DiMera, had split personality disorder. You remember? Hers was caused by the trauma of killing Andre DiMera. And Abby wasn't the first person in Salem with split personalities, which is basically dissociative identity disorder. There were like 3 other people before her, I think, that had it over the years. So Abby had one personality named Gabby, who was based on Gabby Hernandez, but the name was spelled differently. Fans often called that alter Gabigail, just to differentiate. Abby had a husband, but Gabby was hot for his brother, and that created a whole big mess. She had an alter named Dr. Laura as well, who tried to help Abby and her other alters. And that was a plot that Ron Carlivati wrote as well in, I think, his first year at Days of Our Lives when he came over there. The larger point is this would be the 4th or 5th time Days has done DID with a split personality. What's very strange, though, is these physical symptoms. I mean, a brain tumor can change your personality drastically, but I don't think it can create a whole other persona. Either way, at this point, I do not think Everett is faking. If he is, it is an Oscar-worthy, extremely extensive con job, but I just don't see it. He displayed medical symptoms in front of Chad that seemed genuine, and this incident with the collapse in his hotel room seems legit. And next week, Everett spends time on Dr. Marlena's couch getting evaluated. So he's open to talking to people about it, which again gives it an air of legitimacy. Stephanie is there at Dr. Marlena's with him, and I don't think she's taking what he says at face value, but I think his collapse has her thinking maybe there's more to the story, and she's willing to investigate. So I just wonder if Marlena unearths some horrifying childhood trauma to explain all of this, and then we have to see if Jada can let go of her hate and anger. Yes, what Bobby did to her was sketchy. It was awful. It was hurtful. But if he didn't know he was doing it, that kind of changes things. Even more so if he was beaten or molested as a child, and that caused his psychological issues. Yeah, I think Jada's going to have to just kind of drop it, and acknowledge that what happened to him was probably worse than just circumstances of a bad marriage, We'll see how they explain it, but I do think Everett is toe up from the flow up, but that is better than being a cheater, liar, and two-timing creep and doing it knowingly, right? We'll find out more next week once the doctor's verdicts are in. It is sweeps, so this could be huge. Drop your comments on what you think about what's going on with Everett. Please click subscribe if you haven't already, and definitely come back soon. I'm here talking days, 7 days a week, and as always, it is Belinda from Soap Dirt.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.